Today we're going to have a good time. We're going to come to a definitive conclusion about the insubstantiality of a personal identity. Okay? Has anyone been trying to get rid of their personal identity? Raise your hand if you've been trying to get rid of your personal identity. Or your ego, you might call it your ego or your personality. All right, very good. Well, to begin with, in the all-encompassing pure view of awareness, the all-encompassing vast expanse, which includes and contains everything that is included and contained therein can be described as a point of view. The all-encompassing pure view of awareness, anything that appears within it is a point of view of that all-encompassing pure view of awareness, and it's never anything other than that. And this all-encompassing pure view of awareness can be likened to pure space. So just like the space around us in the infinite expanse of the sky, the vault of the sky, is a pure space, so everything within that vault of the sky, within that pure space, is also comprised of space, no matter what it is. And today, we can not only arrive at an intellectual conclusion about this to some degree, but we can also prove it through different scientific instrumentation we have. So, when we look at something like a personal identity, we want to first of all talk about what a personal identity is. Well, a personal identity is a point of view within the all-encompassing pure view of awareness that takes itself to be something that is born, that then goes through a life of waking, dreaming, and sleeping, and then dies. So that is what a personal identity is. And all subsequent points of view that appear once that personal identity point of view has appeared relate back to that personal identity point of view rather than to the authentic source, which is the all-encompassing pure view of awareness. Now, all the points of view that appear within the all-encompassing pure view of awareness are absolutely equal by nature. So the point of view of an individual or a personal identity and the point of any other point of view that appears, dog, cat, depression, fear, anger, joy, bliss, advanced states of altered consciousness, all of these are just points of view within the all-encompassing pure view of awareness. Just like stainless sky has never fallen anywhere and never gets stuck anywhere, the all-encompassing pure view of awareness has never been stuck anywhere because everything is itself. So there's never been an obstruction to occlude it or impede it in any way. There's nothing anywhere that has ever been substantial in and of itself. So this is a very easy way to come to a definitive conclusion about the personal identity or ego. When we inquire about a personal identity or ego, we have to know, first of all, where it dwells and where it came from. Those are the two things we need to know. And unless we can come to a definitive conclusion and say, yes, this personal identity dwells here, and that it comes from here, this certain source within us, then we can't really prove that it exists in its own right. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when we look for the location of a personal identity, this identity that is born and lives and goes through these states of waking, dreaming, and sleeping and then dies, we need to look at the essence of that. We need to just look within ourselves and examine it. intellectually. This is very, very useful. We can come to some understanding about it intellectually, though we can't realize the definitive source of this point of view intellectually. In order to do that, we just need to rest as the awareness that is the basis of our examination about the personal identity. Now, this personal identity point of view, in reality, it is inseparable from the all-encompassing pure view of awareness, just like the color blue is inseparable from the sky, or just like the redness of a ruby is inseparable from the ruby. The redness of the ruby is the dynamic energy of the ruby. It can't be separated out from it. And any point of view, including the point of view of a personal identity, is comprised of pure space and cannot be separated out from pure space, just like the color blue cannot be separated out from the sky. So when we look for our personal identity within ourselves, knowing these facts, these realities about who we are, we can ask, well, where does this dwell? And how did this knowledge come upon me that it dwells somewhere here? That I really have this thing called an ego, that I really have this thing called a personal identity, which means, according to what I've described so far, when we consider ourselves to have a personal identity, then we take ourselves to be our personal history. That is called substantialization. We substantialize ourselves as having an independent origin that's based in a personal history of being born, living, and then at some point dying. So, in order to look at that, we have to know where this entity is, this thing is, this individual is, this person is, who was born, who is living, and who will die. And when we look within, we can look at everything. Can we say really that this personal identity is located anywhere? Can we find this I that we're trying to annihilate or transform or analyze or whatever we're trying to do with it? Can we find it anywhere? Can we really pinpoint the location of it in the brain? No one's been able to do that yet. No one has. Can we pinpoint the location of it in the heart? Not really. Can we pinpoint the location of it in the hand or the eye or the ear? Not really. Because when we look at any of these points of view of where it might be located, what are they comprised of? Aware pure space. That's what they're comprised of. So, and even if we take the composite of all the particles of the body and we say this is the individual identity, and we stop and look at its other aspects. So one aspect is that this is the individual identity, this that is sitting here in these chairs. But the other aspect is that it has no independent nature, that it's comprised of aware pure space and nothing else. And unless we know these two things, we will either be in one of two states. Either we'll be in the state of me, I exist, my personal identity exists, or we will be in nothing exists. So those are the two extremes. Either nothing exists or everything exists. I exist and everything related to me exists, or nothing exists, no matter what it is. However, forever stainless, flawless awareness has never stuck anywhere. It isn't stuck in any extreme, neither that the personal identity exists nor that it doesn't exist. The all-encompassing pure view of awareness is the actual experience of being, the ease of being and nothing else. And that ease of being never gets stuck anywhere. It's never fallen into a history of any kind. It's never fallen into time or space or any kind of holding to anything. It hasn't even fallen into holding to the universe as necessary to be.